an amazing instrument. It has developed into an incredible voice in today's music. So many types of guitars, so many styles of playing, all sorts of gear. How does one make their voice be heard as a guitarist? My name is Jeff Floro, and welcome to All About Guitar, where we talk tone, we talk technique, we talk gear. Where we discover how we can become better musicians in a world of constantly changing technologies. Where we take a good look at everything guitar, and sometimes not exactly guitar, but just as important, so we can be more successful as a musician in today's music scene. So sit back and relax, and let's explore all about guitar. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to All About Guitar. We have a great show for you tonight. I am very honored to have in studio guitarist Larry Koonse. I'm saying that correctly?
Correct.
Yep. I'm the worst pronouncing names, so you have to bear with me. But also in studio, it's good to have back Rod Bonfiglio. It's good to have you back here.
Thanks.
And of course, Lauri.
Hello.
So anyway, Larry is, well, I'm going to let you describe what you do. I mean, you're an amazing guitar player. Listening to these clips are just awesome. But tell us a little about your background.
Thanks, Jeff. Well, I started at a pretty young age. We were just talking right before the show about some of my history as a player, and before I started playing, my father took me to an Andre Segovia concert at the age of 6, and a central theme in my life has sort of been trying to return to that state of mind that I had when I first heard Segovia playing, when I had no knowledge of music. And it was just so magical. And what really impressed me about that concert was the range of control that he had playing this guitar, playing at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, which is a huge venue, and filling that whole venue with sound, and able to seemingly pull an orchestra out of his guitar. And I think the reason I'm talking about that is because I think ever since that moment, that's been a theme for myself. For the most part, I play without effects. It's not that I'm anti-effect. It's just that I'm really striving to look into all the coloristic and orchestrational devices that I can derive just from the guitar itself. So I would say, besides for having a classical background in my early years, I'm mainly a jazz guitarist, and I like to work with original compositions of my own. I also like playing standards. It's a mixed bag, but I do love to improvise, and I love to surprise myself in the process. And it's pretty much acoustic-based music, I would say, that I delve into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's we were talking a little bit also too before the show about this, and what I noticed is the way you phrased on some of the guitars when you're doing fingerstyle, even on the jazz guitar, you can see the classical influence because the voice leading and the inner motion of the voice of the different lines, it's a little different than more traditional jazz players play, where they're like the George Smith, where they have the chord melody or the bottom melody, with a chord on top. You're actually doing motion counterpoint, so to speak, in your playing. And to me, that's kind of unique. Unless somebody's a classical player doing some jazz or something like that, but as a real jazz player, and also in your writing, to me, it's very distinctive.
Well, thank you. I think you're really perceptive. I think that's kind of a trademark of mine, in that I like melody, and I like melody at all sorts of different pitch levels. And I would say the biggest influences in terms of of how I hear counterpoint on the guitar. First of all, is Bach. You know, someone said, I forget, it might have been Jim Smith. We were talking earlier about Jim Smith.
Yes.
Jim said, if you really want to learn about voice leading, check out the Bach chorales. So I sat down and tried to put those on the guitar. They're kind of impossible because the range is way off the guitar's capabilities. But I learned so much about voice leading. So Bach and Jimmy Wyble, my teacher, who I would say is probably the most amazing contrapuntal improviser on the guitar ever. I was privy to listening to him improvise in many lessons when you know, it was sort of difficult to coax it out of him, but when you did, it was truly incredible.
If I can ask you, for the people that are not as familiar with Jimmy, can you demonstrate on guitar what his style or what he brought to the table?
Well, I don't have any of Jimmy's pieces here, and I don't think I could improvise in that same style. I mean, you'd have to sort of hear his music because it really came from Texas swing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played with Spade Cooley and Bob Wills at a time when they were sort of the pop groups at that time. And he had a really unique way of feeling time. It was insistent and it swung. There's no doubt about it, but it was Texas swing. Mm-hmm. It was very different. So when he improvised counterpoint, there was always that element that was present. Actually, you know, one of the tracks that I sent you, Cajun Waltz, is a great example of sort of that swing counterpoint.
Well, let's go ahead and play that, and so we get a good. This is would be a good example of that. This is Cajun Waltz, and this is from What's in the Box, which is your album that you did. That's a tribute to Jimmy. If I'm
That's
correct.
right. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a listen. Here's Cajun Waltz. Now that's a longer piece. I just pulled the clip where he takes off, but it's interesting. It, like you said, it swings, but he's pushing it a little bit. I mean, it's a little more. It's not that laid back, which is interesting.
That's right.
it's still driving.
exactly
It's
right.
kind of moving, but it's not, like a typical laid back swing thing. It's much looser. This is like boom boom. It's still driving.
I was tapping my foot.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
couldn't not like move. It just.
But even
It
with,
has a different lilt. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, you be in between where you're doing your melodic stuff. When you have the chords drive. There is a difference. It's a subtle thing, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's happening.
The excerpt we heard was sort of an extended, improvised guitar moment based on the harmonic material that Jimmy introduces in the piece, and then at the end, it's kind of obvious where the composed part happens, and that's Jimmy's counterpoint right there. So for the most part, a lot of that was improvised based on the form that Jimmy had written.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. It's a beautiful piece, but it's interesting. Now, were you using this guitar, or what were you using? On
Yeah,
this?
that was the Roger Boris, who was D'Aquisto's top apprentice, and this is actually a D'Aquisto design. D'Aquisto said, "Go ahead and use my design." He felt that comfortable with this design being in Roger's hands, and Roger works out of Hoboken.
Oh, okay.
And this is a BG 100.
Should we show the
Sure.
Facebook Live audience?
Does
There
that
we
do the
go.
trick?
If not, that will.
All
It
right.
helps me to take the cap off.
Is this
Okay.
on?
Yeah, you're on. You should.
Hello.
Be on. Yeah, you're on. Oh, here, let me give you a little more gain. But you're on.
Hello. There we go.
There we go. Okay. And let me take a shot of that. That's all
Pretty.
maple, right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Maple top,
Mhm.
back sides.
Yeah.
It's an interesting guitar, but it has a great sound. What pickup do you have on there?
That's a Ken Armstrong. A lot of gain. Ken Armstrong pickups are really hot.
Ken
Do you have any?
I don't have Ken Armstrong, no. I'm just looking at it leaning against the wall like that and like bracing myself. It's interesting, but going back to the Jimmy Wyble piece, there's
Yeah.
the harmonic structure of that tune in particular. It almost reminds me a little Herbie Nichols, kind of like a real. It's almost an experimental harmonic motion. There's
Yes.
it's a very
Not one place. Right?
unique unto itself, but and it's logical within its own. But it's not typical standard tune harmony.
You're right, and the phrase structure is different too.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes there's 4-bar phrases, but sometimes there's 3-bar phrases,
Yes.
or 5-bar phrases. So there's a lot of, in a way, Jimmy's music to me sounded like Western swing filtered through the sensibilities of Thelonious Monk or
Yeah,
something. It was
right.
very strange,
Right.
because he's pre-bebop. He was
Right.
literally a contemporary of Charlie Christian.
Mm.
So, he was a swing guitarist. That was his thing. He was there at the inception of bebop. So it's a very different sensibility,
Yes.
And
he was with Red Norvo for a
Yeah,
while.
that's right. Red Norvo, and I think Charles Mingus for a short time. It was after Tal Farlow.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let me, since we're talking about Jimmy, let me play this other clip that you gave me from same album, What's in the Box, for Alec Wilder, and it's basically two guitars, right? You're doing.
Yeah, it's this piece. I think the first chorus that you're going to hear is a straightforward rendition of what Jimmy wrote, and then the second chorus is some improvisation that I overdubbed on another guitar.
Okay, I think because I'm only playing a clip, I think I have the second chorus. You
Okay.
let me know.
Right.
But here, let's take a listen to this. It's interesting too, the counterpoint between the two guitars, and then there's one guitar accompanies the other one, then he plays over it. But it's interesting, the interaction between the two guitars.
Well, just to give you some background information, that piece is basically a contrapuntal piece. So I took the piece and I tried to infer some harmonic stuff that existed there to try to create some kind of framework to improvise. So what you'll be hearing in that improvised chorus is basically some of that framework, and then I'm improvising over the top.
Okay, let's take a listen for Alec Wilder. And I think you can hear in there too that some of the accompanying guitar you're playing fingerstyle, like classical style.
Yeah, I think the basic track that I laid down is basically Jimmy's counterpoint. So that was played fingerstyle because some of that stuff would be a little rough with a pick.
Yeah, and was that he wrote all? Then was that pretty literal?
It's all through composed.
So
Everything is, there's nothing left up to
so
invention.
all those inner voice movements that he was doing, that you were doing in the recording, in that.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell in this excerpt because you're entering at the place where I'm sort of making commentary on what Jimmy's writing.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's difficult to ascertain which is the composed part and which is the improvised part there. But the first chorus, the one that you didn't play, is Jimmy's piece in a straightforward fashion.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
Now, and both guitars are the Boris.
Yeah.
Now, what did you do in terms of in terms to make them distinctive, the two guitars, because they do sound different, even though it's the same guitar.
Yeah, they sound different.
I think, thank you. If that's, I consider that a compliment, actually, that you're saying that, because I don't think, in terms of recording, that I mic'd it any differently. I didn't change any of the EQ on the amp. If anything, it's maybe some of the color that I'm bringing out of the instrument that's different that I'm hearing, that I want to sort of, counter what I'm already hearing.
Is your hand moving up and
Definitely.
down a lot?
My hand's moving a lot on the guitar.
Okay, because it
draw
sounds like
different-
it's
yeah.
like a lot of classical players, they'll go closer to the neck to get like this real rich, deep sound, and then they go back
Exactly.
towards the bridge. And it sounds like that, what you're doing, because it's definitely in the hands.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're using exactly the same guitar and same amp, right?
Right.
What amp were you using, by the way?
Back then, I was using an acoustic image head
Oh, okay.
and a Razor's Edge speaker,
Oh,
10-inch speaker.
oh, it's a 10.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
small cabinet.
It's got a nice sound. It's pretty deep though for
Yeah.
a 10.
Yeah, it's one of those boutique cabinets that just is surprising in terms of its response throughout the range of the instrument.
And now, how did you mic that? Did you go to a studio? Did you do it in a full studio, or did you?
It's interesting. This is a pretty old project, and subsequent to this project, I would always use a close mic on an archtop guitar, toward the bottom of the right-hand side of the body, just to get some of that information, that human information from the fingers.
Mm-hmm.
But on this recording, it was just basically, I think there might have been a room mic, if I'm remembering correctly, but no close mic on the guitar, and just maybe a stereo pair on the speaker.
Oh, really? How far away?
Pretty close in, if my memory
Really?
serves me. Yeah.
Do you remember what mics they were?
I don't remember. No.
Okay, because that it's a nice. I mean, it's a pretty full sound. It sounded like the amp. You're a little farther back. I'm surprised it's that close, because usually when you pull the mics back, you get more resonance.
Right.
And that cabin, is that an open back?
It's not.
Wow.
It's a closed back cabinet, but it's ported on the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a great sound. I mean, it's that amp head. It's a rich. It's got a lot of rich the harmonics in it, content of it.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
Do you still have it?
I still have it. I use it less and less just because this guitar tends to have a lot of bass response. And there's something about that acoustic image that sort of doesn't allow me to dial out some of the boominess on the bottom. Mm-hmm. So I've had more success with this quilter that I'm using today.
do me a favor and pull up the Boris. I just want you. I want if we can show it. Play with finger style. Just something. It doesn't matter. Just for
Sure.
like about 20 seconds or something. I just want people to see how your hands are placed and what you're doing. Okay, now you're hovering near just behind the pickup a little bit, but it's interesting the tone. I mean, there's a lot of overtones. The timbre of the strings are really. There's a lot of you can hear. There's a lot of character to it, but you can hear a little bit where he's changing. Now I see you have nails, so you have like a classical player.
Yeah.
And but it's interesting the clarity.
Yeah.
So especially when you're doing inner voice leading and you're moving stuff around.
And
Well-
what about string selection too? Is that part of
Well,
it?
these are Diodario strings, and that's a great question, Lauri, because in my case, I went through a really neurotic phase in my life where I experimented with gauges within a certain range on each string to see how the guitar reacted to each string. So I bought 11s for the top, 12, 13. I tried all those. How's it speaking for the instrument? Same thing for the B string, 15, 16, 17. Okay, which one really breathes in the right way? On the bottom, 52, 51, 50, 49. So I went through this incredibly neurotic phase, where I'm tearing out my hair, trying to get the right sound. And ultimately, what I ended up with is that I always buy singles now. I always buy exactly the gauge I want instead of just a standard medium gauge set.
So what did you come up with as your ideal?
Well, on the bottom's 49. It's a little lighter because the guitar has a really tubby response, and it's heavier on other instruments that I use. I use 51 on some of the other guitars. And then let's see, let me see if I get this right. So on top it's 12, B string's 15, wound G string 22, 30 is the fourth string, 39 is the A string, or maybe it's 40, 39 or 40, and 49 on the bottom.
That's interesting that it's not too heavy on the bottom, and it's pretty. The top end is pretty full with the wound G. You get a nice mellow sound.
Yeah, I've heard that Jim Hall had sort of a similar setup. It started as a typical medium gauge set on the top, and then as it got lower, it got a little lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it sounds really balanced. There's a lot of tone. I'm still blown away that that's a 10-inch speaker because it's just nice. It's really, really. I mean, that's a really full sound. I wanna play something that it's got more of the rhythmic counterpoint to it too, to show some. This one you put in your notes. This is called, if I'm saying it right, Mamulenko.
Yeah, Mamulengo.
Lengo.
Yeah.
And it's from the album Conversations, if I'm correct. And this was written by Leah Frere. Is that
Great.
correct?
Good pronunciation.
Brazilian flautist and composer. But it's interesting. The counterpoint between you and the piano is great. And then you guys kind of do like a double lead thing there. But take a listen to this because the rhythmical thing is really cool on this. I love this the way it works. This is Mamulengo. That's a very cool piece.
That's
Beautiful.
really
Yeah.
cool.
Now, the beginning one, the guitar playing at the first part of that clip, is that still the classical guitar, or is that electric? Because it
Yeah,
sounded
it's-
electric.
That's the nylon string.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, because you get it for a minute, I couldn't tell until later on when you're playing. Now, when you were playing that, are you using fingers or are you using?
I was using fingers for some of the passages that were more. I don't think we heard some of those passages, but some of the passages that were more chordal in nature or contrapuntal in nature. But most of that piece was melodic, so I think I was using a pick most of the time
For that?
Yeah.
Because the tone is just great. Now, which guitar were you using for that?
That's the guitar. The guitar I have here. Should I pick it up?
Yeah. Let's take a look at it. It's a great sounding
And-
guitar.
Yeah, it's a great axe. It's made by Paul McGill, a maker in Nashville, great guitar maker, and this is called a Super Ace, and it's got an extended fretboard. It goes up to, what is it? High.
Was it?
Mutual friend of
Is that 2 octaves?
Lauri and I, Billy Childs, loves it for this reason because it goes way up high in range. So it goes up to a high E.
Oh, okay. So it's 2 octaves, 24 fret.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
F doesn't quite sound.
25.
And that's is that a cedar top, or is that spruce? I see it's
You've got
it's a
me.
maple. It's a
I've
maple
forgotten.
back. Can you flip it around to the back?
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah,
this.
that's
flag.
a maple. It's beautiful.
Look at this
Yeah.
maple. It's amazing. That's a beautiful guitar.
Yeah, he's a great builder. Paul's fantastic.
Turn it again. Look at
Yeah.
the heel. Look at the heel. Turn it around again one more time.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is great. That is nice. So it's really easy to access. It's accessible,
Yeah.
and it has its own electronic system in it.
And it's got a 1 7/8 inch nut, so it feels a lot like a jazz guitar. It's not like playing a Ramirez, which I struggle with.
Yeah. Now 1 7/8.
Yeah.
And Larry, you have a beautiful sense of polyrhythmic. You go into a polyrhythmic improvisational phrasing sensibility. I mean, your timing is impeccable, and it's a beautiful thing that you. I don't know. It's your thing. That's.
Like a
Thanks,
trademark.
Rob.
It's a polyrhythmic phrasing thing that I love. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm honored
Yeah.
to be here. By the way, I'm such a huge fan of.
Oh,
Larry, so-
likewise. Thank you, Rob. That's very kind of you.
No.
Yeah, it's. I think it emerged a long time ago, and sort of, I started recognizing it in some players that were coming into the fore in the '90s, like Brad Meldau, for example. Brad really likes to play with over-the-bar line phrases,
Yes.
and for me, it's always sort of been about finding a way to allow melody to exist without feeling like it's reined in by bars and beats, and it's like, how do you make it sound like it's just free of all that stuff?
And there's a way
you know?
I've heard players overdo the polyrhythmic thing, but
Absolutely.
you have it's a beautiful thing because it falls right in line with the tension and the release and all that stuff, which any brilliant improviser has that thing, and you utilize it in a perfect, beautiful way.
Oh,
It's
thank
just,
you, Rob. Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're saying when you're making the comment that some players can overutilize
Yeah, it can be used as almost a gimmick in a way.
Yeah, because there's a whole younger generation that I'm finding that is really studying these rhythms as opposed to just improvising
Yes.
with the notion of playing across the bar line.
I took a lesson
Yeah.
recently with a pretty well-renowned player in town, and he mentioned the fact that the younger cats coming up don't really have the melodic sensibility that generations prior, like they're not reaching back far enough to really grasp
Right.
what this music is. It's
Right.
more like you're doing a lot of this, but you're not really saying much.
Well, it's not math, and it's still a story. and it
Sure.
and if there's not a sense of sort of going somewhere and then going to a surprising place, if playing over the bar line or playing in groups of 5, which is a good way of sort of approaching playing over the bar line, if it doesn't lead to some sort of resolution or some surprise, then you know what's coming around the corner next. Yeah, there's no story, there's no drama.
It's all predictable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not predictable. He does surprise you where he goes when he takes especially when you're improvising.
Yeah, when that moment happens, like, oh.
But that piece, how much of it did you totally arrange that, or was there specific things that Leah had done? Was that pretty much written? I mean, I know we're talking. The part I played was more you're interpreting
Right.
more, but I mean in general, because the rhythmic thing is going on through the whole. But
Yeah. So you started at a point in which the through composed portion of the composition was almost over, leading into the guitar solo. So there was maybe 16 bars of stuff that was written out and interpreted strictly. And then I soloed, and then in my solo, David Reutzstein, who's the head of the program at Cal Arts where I teach, and really close friend, great, amazing pianist, and we've played duo for 20 years at this point. And anyway, he did the transcription from this group and reduced it for guitar and piano. It was for flute and quite a few other Brazilian instruments in its original form. At some point of the guitar solo, there's a specific polyrhythmic figure that the piano goes to behind my solo, and I keep soloing, and then I join him on that polyrhythmic figure. So it's kind of obvious where we're sort of in sync and playing the same stuff.
well, it's interesting the timbre of that guitar, and then there's it's like a double lead thing that's going on where you're playing each other, you're playing together, or octaves. I don't forget if it was and it's just the blend is amazing because that's a piano and a classical guitar, and usually they sound a lot different, and it sounds like, for a minute I had to listen to that other part, like, is that another guitar? No, it's a piano.
It's interesting. David is a pianist that's really aware of color, and I find that in different situations, playing with piano with nylon string guitar, sometimes it doesn't work so well because the piano sort of masks it. So the pianist has to really be aware of color in order for it to work.
Because how you hit that, the hammer hits that string, you can get this really darker color, a warmer color,
right,
in the tone, and it's interesting. I mean, a lot of times, because people, especially when they're playing live, and this, you're trying to project. So if you're playing an acoustic piano and you're in a live setting, you're hitting it pretty hard, which gives you a different timbre. But he's very subtle. I mean, you can hear he can dig in when he wants to, but then he was doing some really, you can tell he was playing light on there.
It's absolutely right, Jeff.
But pull this guitar up. I want to hear more of this. When you were recording, did you just mic that, or did you use both the pickup and the?
I used the pickup and a set of close mics. Stereo pair at the 12th fret. And if memory serves me correctly, a mic on the body as well. So I think there were 4 mics: stereo pair at the 12th fret, a mic for the body, and maybe even a stereo pair on the speaker.
Okay, were you using that same amp for the
acoustic image?
Yeah.
This is a pretty old recording too.
It's got a great sound. Go ahead and just.
Do you want me to?
Plug it in, and we can pick you up acoustically from your voice mic. But I just want to just show a little bit of the color and the versatility of that, because it's an amazing guitar. I love the tone of that. I mean, that's just it does a lot.
Well, and the playability too is a huge factor too. It's not a classical guitar, doesn't have that scale, and it doesn't feel that way. So it's very easy for a jazz guitar, as someone that's used to a neck that.
Well, it's
that
interesting
wide to
because
get
you
around.
get a really mellow tone out of it, and that guitar, construction-wise, is more with the maple and stuff. It seems more like a flamenco,
Yeah.
but it isn't. It's just really, it's
Right.
got a really nice, sweet sound. I moved the mic over so you can hear a little bit acoustically.
See if we can go up. There it is.
Play something up in the upper register legato. I just want to, it sustains a lot.
Let's see. Get this out of my way. There. Okay. Can I do that? No, I can't.
Go down to like about the 7th or the 5th fret and just hold a note and like. That's nice. I mean, it's clear. All the the inner lines, the inner notes are clear. It really articulate guitar. Now, what about those strings? Did you have to? Is that a set, or
These
did you
are-
custom made that?
These are Diodario as well. Hard tension.
But it's
Yeah.
not. You didn't go
Not
string by-
custom. Not
Okay.
custom. Hard tension. Standard hard tension set. Yeah.
That's a great sounding guitar.
I have a classical guitarist friend that is he's urging me to try Savarez strings, and so I'm
I just had them on last week.
Did you?
They're nice. They've been making strings since the 1700s.
He said there's a noticeable difference on this kind of instrument. So
Yeah, and they have a lot of different ones. They have a classical guitar string that it's designed to be flexible. So, like if you're doing a studio gig, you can bend, and it still sounds good. I was amazed. Actually, in fact, we were talking about before the Ovation, I strung up the Ovation with that one to demonstrate it, because that was a lot of people have used that for sessions to bend, and it was amazing. You don't see classical guitars, strings that flexible, but they're interesting. But I have to say the Diodarios, they're consistent. They're consistent. I've used them a lot on my guitars, and they're you know what you're getting,
yeah,
and that's important.
yeah,
They're
consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consistency is really. But both of these guitar. I mean, that had a great with the pickup. It does sound like a jazz guitar. It was hard
Yeah.
to tell for a minute.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
That was
a lot
real.
of sustain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, we're almost out of time, and I want you to play something taking us out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play. I'm thinking of playing either the Red Wheelbarrow or the other one with the upright, Between Nowhere and Goodbye from Storybook.
Mm-hmm.
Any preference? Because the Red Wheelbarrow is with Billy Childs, which you're
Yeah,
still.
I love that piece. So the Red Wheelbarrow features this guitar again.
Okay.
Between Nowhere and Goodbye features some other guitars, a Martin guitar and a earlier Yamaha nylon string that I used to have.
Okay, well, let's take a listen, because
Try to squeeze in both.
all right, we'll have to just go. Yeah, they're not long clips, so I mean, compare the other ones. But I mean, you can't cut when he's going.
Yeah.
You just,
noticed.
I mean, I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's
I'm
tricky.
fighting it.
Yeah, it's tricky.
But it's like,
Yeah.
it's
to
you know,
find
you,
the spots. Yeah.
you got to finish what you're saying, you know, in all fairness to you. Okay, let me play, first we'll play Between Nowhere and Good Pie. And this is from Storybook, your album Storybook. Here we go. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead real quick and play the Red Wheelbarrow. And this is Billy Child's from the album Autumn in Moving Pictures, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And check this out. I love that double bass. That's
love
just
that last
killer.
piece.
Isn't that nice?
It's an incredible record.
Thank you.
It's incredible.
All right, here's a Red Wheelbarrow.
Thank you.
Great sound. That's this guitar, right?
That's his guitar. Yeah.
That's a beautiful sound. Told you it would go by fast. We're out of time. It's not WW. It's just LarryKoonse.com is the
Yes.
website, and all these albums are available now.
They are all available on iTunes. They're also available on jazzcompass.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could make one quick plug for a lesson video site that I've just established that
definitely.
I'm really proud of. It's called eliteguitarist.com, and it's the most comprehensive video lessons that I've ever put together on a variety of different subjects. And that's spelled eliteguitarist.com.
Oh, just singular. Elite Guitarist?
Elite, yeah.
Guitarist.com, okay, instead of plural. Very cool. That's well, we didn't get into the stuff that you've done as a teacher and stuff, so it just means you have to come back. That's a
The
definite.
magic words.
Yes.
But what's going on right now where you're playing? Anything coming up, concerts or anything that you're going to be playing?
Yeah, actually, there's constantly things happening. I just got back from playing for 2 weeks in New Zealand with Bruce Foreman, great guitarist. We did a 2-guitar thing, and he course, has a one-man show that he did as well. And I just also got, right before that, I just got back from Denmark working with a singer named Sina Eeg. And actually have another concert with Billy coming up in November at the Broad Theater.
That's right. That's the jazz chamber, right?
That's a
The
jazz chamber
yeah.
group. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get to promote that.
Oh, very good. Well, speaking of promoting, what's going on with you, Lauri?
Well, I just finished a slew of shows, actually, but Santa Barbara, we've got this Eagles show happening. This is I call this the small tribe, our big group that Rob's actually part of also does the big benefits. And then the offshoot of that, we have smaller groups that do classic albums, classic covers. And so this is 2 Eagles albums that we're doing at Soho.
That's the tribe, right?
This Wednesday. It's the small tribe, though.
The
There's only
small
10
tribe.
of us.
But are you the tribe? You got to check out the picture they took of
yeah.
of the tribe. It's great.
The
Everybody
album?
kind of laying down on the ground.
Yeah,
the
the
bodies. That's
Desperado,
really
and
funny.
we reconstructed that album. It's actually this picture.
It
right
has
here. It's
nothing to
tiny.
do with music, but it's a cool picture. I mean, it's just like
Yeah, it's all about the Western feel of the album. So,
And Rob, how you just released an album, Trouble Again, which we
Yes.
talked about.
Yes, sir.
when was that show? That was early June? When was it?
Oh, the
you guys,
CD release show was June 8th, yes.
and then we had you here,
That's right. That's right.
archivers. You can
Just
go
go
back
into the
and-
archives. It's
yeah,
in there.
Look
The
it up.
archives.
And but what's going on with you? Anything?
Playing around. I have a show with Wilson Phillips in Vancouver this weekend, and for the rest of the time, I'm gonna go try to see Larry wherever he plays.
There you go. There you go. But are you gonna do a tour of your album? Are you gonna be doing anything?
Sporadic touring, yes. I wouldn't say it's any hard and fast length of time on the road, but here and there.
Oh,
Yeah, here and there.
And
But
he
yeah.
plays my songwriter showcases, of course. Yeah, we
Yes,
just
there-
did
yes,
one
Yes, indeed. Yes,
in
indeed.
July, and
Yep.
we've got another one coming up in October.
That's right.
Announce
Looking
that later.
forward. Always fun.
Oh well, no, and we'll have to. You're due again too to come back too. But I'm glad that you got to come and hang with us.
This
is
is
really
been a
cool.
thrill.
You're
Thank
always
you.
Thanks for
I'm
being
so
here,
glad to
Rob.
have
Really,
met
I'm
you.
You know, it was
thrilled.
fun
Thank you.
too. We had John Chiodini on here.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was really fun, and he's actually that's
John's
the show
very
that's
cool.
coming up. His show, remember Elaine Miles?
Yeah, Elaine
so
Miles.
that show is happening at Vitello's on the 7th of September.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, give us a little piece to take us out on this beautiful guitar. This
Sure.
is great. And everybody have a great week. We'll see you next week. But I'm going to leave you with Larry doing what he does best.